Hello and welcome to What the F*** Just Happened Today, your essential guide to the daily shock and awe in national politics. I'm Joe Amditis, let's get to it. It's Friday, March 19th, 2021. Welcome to Day 59. The House of Representatives passed two immigration bills that would establish a path to citizenship for roughly 3.4 million undocumented immigrants. The American Dream and Promise Act, which passed 228 to 197, would create a path for citizenship for the approximately 2.5 million undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children, known as Dreamers, as well as others who would be granted temporary protected status for humanitarian reasons. The House also passed the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which could create a path for more than 1 million undocumented farm workers to apply for legal status. The bills are narrower than the comprehensive immigration package that was introduced back in February, which would have created a path to citizenship for most of the 11 million undocumented immigrants in the United States. Neither the American Dream and Promise Act or the Farm Workforce Modernization Act, however, are likely to overcome the 60-vote threshold in the Senate. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said Democrats are wasting time on a bill that could not be less timely or targeted to the issue at hand. Meanwhile, more than 500 unaccompanied migrant children and teens have been held in jail-like detention centers for more than 10 days at the border. Under U.S. law, minors are only allowed to be held for 72 hours in the Customs and Border Protection detention centers. Back in D.C., Biden urged Congress to swiftly pass the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act to address the rise in discrimination and violence against Asian Americans following the mass shooting that killed 8 people, including 6 Asian women. In a statement, Biden said, "While we do not yet know the motive, as I said last week, we condemn in the strongest possible terms the ongoing crisis of gender-based and anti-Asian violence that has long plagued our nation." The measure would increase Justice Department oversight of coronavirus-related hate crimes, expedite the federal response to the rise of hate crimes, provide support to state and local governments to improve hate crimes reporting, and ensure that information on hate crimes is more accessible to Asian American communities. Moving on, the CDC revised its physical distancing requirements for children in school from 6 feet to 3 feet. Teachers and adult school staff, however, must continue to adhere to the 6 feet guidelines. Masks remain mandatory for all. Up in New York, the FBI is investigating whether Governor Andrew Cuomo and his aides gave false data about nursing home deaths in the state to the Justice Department. The state initially released only the number of nursing home residents who died of COVID-19, despite knowing that thousands of residents had died after being transferred to hospitals. The FBI has also questioned state officials about a provision in last year's state budget that granted nursing homes and hospitals broad legal protections for care during the pandemic, which made it difficult for families of residents who died or were infected by the coronavirus to sue. Moving on, U.S. diplomats accused China of threatening world stability, while Chinese officials alleged that America is a human rights hypocrite during the first high-level meeting between the two global powers. In his opening statement, Secretary of State Antony Blinken said Beijing needed to return to a rules-based system and vowed to bring up deep concerns about China's actions in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. China's diplomat replied that the U.S. was being condescending and wasn't qualified to speak to China from a position of strength, adding, "We hope that the United States will do better on human rights," a reference to the Black Lives Matter movement in the U.S. The public exchange was supposed to be a 4-minute photo op, but it lasted for more than an hour as the two aides traded barbs. And finally, the White House asked several staffers to resign or work remotely after previous marijuana use was discovered during their background checks, regardless of whether they had been in one of the 14 states where the drug is legal. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that only 5 people are no longer employed at the White House after disclosing marijuana use.
That's all for now. You can find the links and sources for all of these stories on the main website. And as always, visit whatthefjusthappenedtoday.com for the latest news and headlines. Until next time, I'm Joe Amditis.